So we're doing DPW and are we doing MIS also, Frank? Are we just gonna do, the new business, or are we gonna, what are we taking off the table?
Whatever you want, Madam Chair. Follow your lead.
I don't know, what do you, Está bien. 302. So you wanna do 302, 339, and we're gonna do 348? Okay.
339, what else? Which one?
302, 339, and 348.
348?
Correct, which is the new business. And we're starting one day. Turn the TV on, right?
You have a housing today?
Yes.
At 7?
May I look up there?
Do you own a house? I'm not, yeah.
I am.
I took you out? Thank you. I appreciate that move. You look knocking your head. Well, you know, I appreciate it. BNF is a little bit of craziness. But I do got a bolt at 7, so you look, we got quorum, so we're good.
It's all set? It's not on the TV?
We're not projecting.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Personnel Committee meeting, Monday, January 28th. To my left, we have voting members, Councilor Roger Toomey, Vice Chair Dan Rivera. We have Council President Frank Moran and myself, Sandy Almonte, chairperson of this committee. First of all, we're going to have new business of document 34812, DPW Director reclassification here by our Personnel Director, Frank Bonet. Frank, please.
Good evening, Councilors. Frank Bonet, 33 Dartmouth Street, Personnel Director, City of Lawrence.
Good evening.
We bring before the Personnel Committee a reclassification to the Department of Public Works Director job position that was approved in 2005 by the City Council. As the memo that's on the top of the job description state, there is no major changes that will alter the scoring system and change any grades to this position. There were only 2 minor changes to this job description that our office cannot do. As I probably have told before, there are 3 items on a job description that has to be approved by the City Council, and I can't change those in my office. Job titles, the summary of duties, and the education and experience. Everything else, the skills, abilities, and knowledges, we can modify. Those are in our office. So this particular job description for DPW Director has 2 changes in the same areas, which is the education and experience. On the request of, and the approval of Mayor Lantigua, and on the request of Council LaPlante, the job description for DPW Director has a change in the education and experience, and what we have changed is we have eliminated the language on the old, well, it's still the new, it's still the current, but we have eliminated the language of procurement license. The current job description has language that requires the DPW Director to have a procurement certification. At this moment, I don't want to speak for Council LaPlante, but from what I understood was that we currently have a procurement office in the City of Lawrence, and therefore the DPW Director doesn't necessarily require a procurement certification. The other change is also on the education and experience, and this was also brought to our attention by Councilor LaPlante, which the job description, the current job description has that the DPW Director needs a CDL license and a current regular driver's license. And so it was a redundancy in our part to put both, and we've eliminated the driver's license and just included the commercial driver's license, because as we all know, if you have the commercial driver's license, you can pretty much drive anything below that category. And so those are the only two changes on that job description there, and therefore you're approved.
Members of the committee have any questions or follow-up for Mr. Benet?
I do, Mr. President.
Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bonet, how many departments do you, off the top, you know how many departments we have in the city?
In the city? Good question. I know how many
I don't know, probably,
unions.
you know, it's, let's say it's a lot of departments,
Say 12, 13, yeah. So, probably a little bit more.
probably north of that, right?
Right.
So I'll go with that with you. And our budget's outside from the school department budget, but let's put the school department budget in, because I think that the current person who's doing procurement also does some procurement stuff for the schools, too.
There is a procurement officer at the Lawrence Public Schools, yes.
Correct.
Our official procurement officer that approves the entire city's procurement contracts and bids and things like that is located here in City Hall. As you know, she is Ms. Brousseau. The school,
How many people, go ahead, I'm sorry.
the school department has their procurement just to put their package together, but it eventually is sent over to the city's official procurement officer.
And so let's put the schools in there too. So the full budget's probably like I think it's like $237 million.
240, yeah.
240. Capital money, there's another $6 million that's in, $4 million something in free cash. We're gonna spend a good amount of money on that. Let's just say we're doing a lot of procuring
Correct.
every year. My concern with this is that we rely too heavily on one person to do those things, and then you get yourself into a jam when you're trying to do things fast or trying to get through all the work, because there's only her in that office. Used to be 3 bodies, now there's just her.
There used to be 3 bodies, correct. Right now, there is just the procurement officer and a clerk.
And I'm not advocating for more bodies in the procurement department. I don't want to get the wrong idea.
Right.
I just want to make sure that the people who are in charge of their budgets understand the procurement process in a way that, A, it doesn't make that person's job that much harder, that one person we have watching the gate, if you would, but also doesn't, you know, I think when we're talking about procurement specifically around Department of Public Works, there are certain things that are really specific to that department that the procurement officer is not going to see for
Technical.
recreation or for the Budget and Finance office. They're gonna procure something from Budget and Finance, paper, software, whatever. This is water, because this is what the Department of Public Works Director now is in charge of. The Water Department, Department of Public Works, Inspectional Services, Recreation, there's a 5th one, Parking, the parking complex. So, when you think about all that, and you know, we're gonna procure money for an elevator repair over at one of the garages at the same time. I wanna know the guy who's in charge of all that stuff knows the letter of the law. We had an incident recently where, you know, one of the bosses did a procurement effort, didn't do a great job of it, and people got in trouble. That's why you want the person who's in charge of to have this license, you know, because, you know, I understand the correction with the driver's license, but for the person to be in charge of that much of the city's budget, that much of the procurement process, to rely on a third party to make sure that his or her procurement is done appropriately, effectively, in a timely manner, to me, I think it's not acceptable. I think the person who's gonna put that stuff together should bring it basically almost done to the procurement office, so the procurement officer can be like, okay, she does the once over on it, she doesn't have to go through the line by line 100% because she has the expectation that the department heads have it. And I think this more than any other department, again, it's 5 departments they're in charge of. We got streets, you know, a lot of contracts that go into it. I mean, if you think about the next biggest department, fire, police, they're not procuring that much, as much as this department is procuring. Even if you go further down, you think about inside here, and the teachers, they're gonna procure a lot in the school department. But I just think that this is not the right thing to do to this specific position. Again, I support doing the correction of the driver's license. I think that's redundant. But I think that we'd be doing this community a disservice by dumbing down this position by not taking them, making that person be an expert in procurement when they're the one that probably does the most procurement in the city. So do you think, the last question, I guess, have we done a study if other communities may have had, their DPW directors have procurement?
No, but I could. I can call each one of them. I know for a fact, when we were doing the study in 2005, the consultant who assisted our office in putting together these job descriptions found that other communities did have a DPW director with procurement certification, and hence, that's why this job description has it on this one. And as you well know, we just had maybe about, probably a little bit over a month ago, a procurement training for the entire city of Lawrence, for, not the entire city of Lawrence, but department supervisors, on those individuals that deal with budgets. It was conducted down at the Lawrence Public Schools, Hall of the School Committee, in which the state came down to train or give about 8 hours block of instructions on procurement, 30B, and some of the other laws that apply. It wasn't a voluntary thing, that was a mandatory thing, and for the specific reasons that you state. So just thought I let you know that, you know.
And I'm glad, I mean, people should be doing remedial training all the time, and that's really good, so that they don't get themselves in a jam. I mean, I'm sure people found out that there's things that you can do and not do that they had thought, you know, long ago, because they came to work for the city 20 years ago.
I found out that I had to go out for a bid, and it's currently a bid, something that I didn't think should have been.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and again, when you think about the stuff that you're procuring compared to the stuff that the Department of Public Works is procuring, I think this is just a dangerous thing to do, and I hope that councils can, you know, think about this deeply.
yeah, our recommendation or our proposal before you is based on a request on one of the counselors who've made it public, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Counselor Toomey?
Well, this is rather new to me, what you're talking about, Counselor. Would this, if this goes into effect, would that cover all departments? Would that fit into their job descriptions from whoever is the department head? The necessity of having a procurement license?
This is the only position besides our procurement office that requires a certification. None of the other director positions have that. The school department does have one procurement officer. He's also the payroll manager for the payroll department. And I believe that they sent in the past 2 individuals to get certified. It's like a week course. You have to take a test, and I think one of the individuals passed, so I'm not sure if they still have a backup for them. But this is the only job besides a procurement officer to have that certification.
So this would be the only job that would be required, what the council is
It is
promoting?
required at this time. It is required under the job description, that job reclassification that was approved in 2005. Bennett and Associates were our consultants, and they recommended it. The city council approved it, and it's currently in the job description. So the proposal before you is to take that certification out of the education and experience portion based on the recommendation.
Okay. I do have one other question, though. I'm reading here on the first page of the title, Statement of Duties. It says employee exercises departmental level supervision both directly and through a subordinate, a department of approximately 130 employees. We haven't seen that in 10 years.
Excuse me, which paragraph is that?
It's the, under supervision, it's the 3rd paragraph now.
Supervision, first paragraph or second?
Third.
Third.
Third paragraph
Employee
now.
exercises departmental supervision both directly and through subordinates.
Is that number correct? I think he's,
130 employees.
Well,
It was at one time.
right, so what happens is, what's reflected here is not what they actually have. It means that they can supervise up to 130 employees. So if he's, you know, his department or he or the city is so fortunate to have some funding that will allow that 130 to be, funded, then he can have 130. But anything above 130 will probably change his score. So that there's when we score these positions, we score the job or the supervision level on the amount of employees that they supervise, and it's between 0 and 5, 5 and 25, 25 and 75, and whether they're in the same location or they're scattered about. So if they're in the same location, like my office, you get a lower score, you probably get 5 points. And if they're scattered about, like the police chiefs or the fire chiefs, if they're all over the place, then you probably get a little higher score than that.
This is for grade 9, right?
And that is, yes, that's a grade 9. That's the highest grade on the non-union classification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Tony. Councilor Moran?
Just a quick question, the procurement officer. Who's doing that job today in the city?
Ms. Rita Brousseau,
Rita Bruce.
yes.
She does it for the just the DPW alone?
She does it for the whole entire city, this side, and then she monitors and verifies the school department's bids also.
Okay. So we currently have, do we have a backup for her?
Yes, we do use the procurement officer from the Lawrence Public Schools. She was on leave for some time, and that person was our backup. Shoot, I can't get his name off the top of my head.
Does the school department has a backup?
No,
So their backup is our backup.
right. They usually
I mean, they interchange.
help each other out.
So they cross, which is good. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not sure.
But if both of them are out, then we have no backup. I knew at one time the Lawrence Public Schools did send 2 individuals to get trained and the test for the certification. I think one of those individuals passed, but I'm not sure they still with the school department. So when you pass and you get your certification, you literally can work in a procurement an office doing, procurement work, bidding, contracts, and things like that.
Can they do that? Can they do work for the municipal side? I know they get paid through Chapter 70 money.
Right, right.
Is it legal for them to do that, or can we get in trouble for that?
That's a question for the city attorney.
Okay. No,
yeah.
just
I
wanna
would
make
say
sure that
city is city.
if we have backup, that
we
we,
share, but it's a different budget. You're absolutely correct. It's a different budget. I mean, it's the same budget, city budget, however, it's money that's funded for public schools, so it has to be for public, public schools' duties or work, jobs.
because I mean, is she ready for this workload? I mean, this is but I know she's been doing it.
She has been doing it.
For how long she's been doing this?
Since the retirement of the former procurement officer, was it Ms. Traficante?
Yeah.
Yes. She retired a couple of years ago, probably a little bit less than a couple of years ago, and she's been doing it. Actually, when she retired, we had no one there but a clerk, so we had to use the Lawrence Public Schools procurement officer. And after the return of our procurement officer, Ms. Rita Brousseau, it's just her and her clerk. And it's supposed to be a 3-man job, probably a little bit more depending on the amount of, funding for contracts to be bidded and so forth. And it takes a long process.
I just
have
want to
a-
make sure we don't overwork this person that we currently have now.
Correct.
You know what I mean? We wanna
I tell
make
you,
sure-
I have something out for bid right now. We had a training, like I said, probably less than a month ago, and I was under the impression, since I've been here, the unemployment has never been bidded out because it's a cross between legal and services. So when it's legal, it's usually exempt. However, upon conversation with the individual that came to train us, he said, no, you have to bid it. Although you have some legal services, the majority is administrative services. So we bid it out, and without her, I can tell you, I don't think I could have put it, I wrote the specifications, but I don't think I could put the whole thing together. She receives packets, invites individuals to sit down and wait for the contracts, or the bids to open up and so forth, and she puts the whole thing together. So it's a long process. Unfortunately for us, for the department, no one has bidded on our bid, so we have to I asked to rebid it. Yeah. It's Unemployment Administration, which, verifies and communicates with the states on the unemployment. And if we need legal representation, they also will represent us. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Mann. My thought on this is that I think we should continue to have, who is it that's procuring this right now for anything that goes through DPW?
It is DPW and the procurement officer.
So between the both of them, they're getting it done at the
Correct,
moment? And this is still under the job description that would be here?
That one is a proposed job description.
The proposed job description, correct. Well, I'm thinking, I'm more going lean over towards what Danny Rivera is saying, in the sense that DPW should be able to put it together and have her work through helping him, or the person there to put it together, to have that function. This is gonna be like an extra workload, and like we were saying, what if she's out and then we have to borrow someone, and that person's overworked, overloaded, and then our end of the deal doesn't get worked out or pushed forward, or deadlines are not met, et cetera. So, I mean, I will entertain a motion, but I'm gonna lean towards what, Counselor, Rivera, his suggestion. And also for the CDL, I mean, we can definitely, do what we need to do on that, but for the procurement, I think it should be left in the job description, just so that the person that's putting it together knows, and then the procurement officer can help out, well, the person, and help them out in, getting that finalized. So I'm looking,
So
I'll
I-
entertain a
I-
motion.
I make a
Oh,
motion to-
Counselor Toomey,
Just a
please, one
quick
moment, please.
question.
Sorry.
Currently, the interim Director of Public Works does not have a procurement license, is that what
The
it is?
individual in the position does not have a procurement certification, no.
Okay, so that would be required now as part of the,
It is required now. Correct.
required now. Okay. And the Rita Brusso, I believe you said her name is the current procurement officer?
Yes,
Wasn't she like an assistant in the?
She was.
Ms. Trapacanti?
correct.
So she's very familiar with the process.
Excuse me?
She's very familiar with the process.
Definitely, yeah.
Even at that time, she was.
Even with Ms. Traficante there, Ms. Brousseau
No
was
longer
considered my expert knowledge, subject matter expert person that I would go to.
How tough is it to get certified?
It's a week of intense training, and then you have to take a test to pass. I know someone I've always considered the person smart, and did not pass, so they didn't bother continue it. I guess maybe they just didn't have, passion for that, but I heard it's pretty difficult, pretty hard. You have to really know the laws. It's not only 30B, you have some other laws, you have equipment, whether it's a building, whether it's, there are different ways of going about bidding depending on what you need. Based on my training a couple of months ago, I learned a few things.
So
I think maybe it could be something that we want to have every director in the city have. If they have a budget that has a lot of contracts, airports, definitely the
Counselor Rivera?
Yeah,
police
Madam Chair,
department.
I know this is tough because I think that people are concerned about the acting DPW director. And I think that, I broached the subject with him as many times that, we have these job descriptions for a reason, because we want a certain level of expertise. And I think it would be great for this committee individually to approach him and encourage him to go out and get the training. I think that's the route to deal with that point. I know that people are really happy with some of the work that that person's doing, but the answer isn't, let's not make it as, at the level of expertise that we expect. The answer is, let's encourage him to go get the training. And I think that we would all feel better about the way we do business here. This city doesn't need less certified people in procurement. It probably needs more. So, given that point, I'd like to make a motion to send this document up, to edit the motion, to strike the withdrawal of, I want to make sure, to strike the elimination of procurement language. So this would read, the only changes to this position descriptions are correction of the driver's license, which is found in the requirement area, education and experience. I do that, I send it up with a favorable recommendation with that language struck out.
All those in favor?
Can you find a second?
Any other, sorry,
Move
discussion?
discussion on that.
Discussion?
Yeah. I don't want to give the impression that we're just picking on one particular person, even though this was part of this is currently part of this document.
Well, I think we're talking about the position, not the person.
Well, the position. then.
But it was brought up because an individual was brought up before the council for an approval of a position, and those comments from a counselor recommending that we make these changes, we have, so.
I mean,
Y'all second,
The only-
Counselor Moran?
So this is a requirement that everybody has, this particular position has to have. This is not,
That
you have,
position.
once you get hired, you have 3 months to get certified, or you're on probation for the next 90 days or 6 months to get this. If you don't get it, you're gone.
Correct.
There's no stipulations here that even allows this person to, give him a, 3 months or 6-month period to get certified.
You could make that motion, you could make the change also for motion. I mean, the current job description just says a procurement certification is required. And I believe there's language, I don't have it with me, but I think there's language about procurement as well, experience, bidding out contracts. So it's up to the Personnel Committee to make, a change also to say, we would like to have a procurement certification, and we'll allow any individual in the place to have 3, 6 months, because I think there's only like 3 times a year that they train and test, so I don't know if 3 months would be good, but 6 months to get the certification, and then put language as to the fault of not obtaining that certification within the 6 months.
I mean, here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a person that's gonna, it's a director, that's gonna have a quote-unquote, eventually 130 employees. He's got 5 departments, and according to, I think Councilor Rivera said he has 5 departments. So that's a lot of people and a lot of departments. And at the same time, we add in this additional procurement to get certified for this as well, which, managing 130 people is tough enough, is tough as it is. Even though you have supervisors, middle management that helps you with the day-to-day operation. But if you have a procurement officer, other than the director, that's their main function all day, I think it's less likely to make a mistake if you have a person that's all they do all day. I mean, right now, we currently have a person, Rita, this is what she does for a living.
Correct.
So when you have a director at this level, I mean, when you're a director, you pretty much run the show. Your job is to make sure you don't go over the budget, you manage the budget properly, make sure you don't, you're properly staffed, you're making sure that everybody's properly trained, licenses are available, whatever it is that they need. You want to make sure as a director that your department is functioning as perfect as possible. When you add this additional on top of, which is good that I agree, he should know this. But my personal opinion, I think should be involved in the day-to-day of this function because he's got too much going on. He's got 130 people. And trust me, he's got a lot of phone calls from all of us. Anything from street paving, potholes, somebody's tree came down, even to that extent. My personal belief, I think there should be a procurement officer just dedicated to this at all time,
To just DPW.
to eliminate mistakes, because it's very easy to make mistakes. But that's just my opinion. I mean, to make it a mandatory for him to have this probably, it's good for him to probably have it, and to know it, which is, it's good to know. The more you know, the better you are, the better you know your job, but, I don't know. It's just-
I'm with you. I agree that there should be some procurement individual that deals with
should know
only
the basics.
DPW, because that's probably one of our biggest, biggest department that has funds that go out to like, our trash services were just bidded out and things like that, streets and things. Here, I just want to give you an example of something that I remember happening, and this happens at the federal level. I was a sergeant in the United States Army up in Fort Drum, New York, and my wife used to work at procurement, and she worked at procurement in Lawrence Public Schools too for a little while. I moved into a housing that they gave me for my wife and my kids, and brand-new housing back in 1980s. Everything was done. You go into the garage, and you can see the sheetrock walls, but they weren't primed, they weren't painted. And so I made a question to one of my, higher echelons, and they told me, well, the person who was doing the procurement didn't know so much about houses, and they forgot to put prime and paint for the garage walls. So I agree with you, and I agree with you. I just want to make that as a point that if you don't know about DPW, and I'm not saying that Rita Bouchot doesn't, but should be somebody dedicated specifically to those type of technical, knowledge, and to have something that you know about streets and buildings, or, something that has to do with constructions, engineering, water, sewer, just dedicated to those, because when you write the specifications, you're writing what exactly you want. And if you don't know the technical, for instance, I'm not just using as an example, but if you come to personnel, you try to write a specification for workers' compensation, a third party, or unemployment, or EAP, you probably don't know what to put in. You may just miss something. But
How's it been getting done for the last 5 years?
who's that?
It's been getting done for the last 5 years.
It's been doing great, yeah.
For the
It's been
last
doing
5
great.
years,
I mean, we've
right?
only had one instance, and that's in the police department, I guess it was. So,
Who's been doing the procurement for DPW?
all the procurement, the whole city has been Ms.
She's been
Ms.
doing it by
Brousseau.
herself.
Now, the DPW, or every department writes their specifications to what they want to include. For instance, if I have a EAP, an Employee Assistance Program, and the contract expires in April, 3 months or 4 months before him, I'm already writing a specification. I need to know, I have 100 or 500 plus city, 2,000 school. We need psychological services, administrative services. I'd like to know every month or every quarter how many individuals, not by name, but by numbers, have visited, so that I can get a sense of how much money I'm spending on it. And then, lowest bidder, you like your services to be in the city or, within 10 miles. I remember when I got here, the EAP was in Texas, and they had contracted with Third Services with Psychological Center or Family Services, and so our thing was that we wanted it in the city, make it easier for our employees to go. So if you don't know these things, you'll probably get hit with a low bid, and it's from California, and you have to do a long term type, relationship with a company. So there's a lot of things that I think that every department knows what they want and what they need and what they require. But we're not certified as to, going about, like, for instance, this bid that I received no bids for, I can go rebid, or something that I did not know, Ms. Brousseau said that I can get I can go out for quotes and get lowest bidder for quotes if no one has bid it. I said, let's go out to rebid it. I'd rather rebid it.
Councilor Rivera?
I'll try to plead to my counselors one more time on this matter. I just think that this position has become such a crucial position that, after thinking about the things that happened in the past, I believe before I came on the council, there was a big problem with some procurement around wires or, I forget, wireless wire, something down at the DPW.
I think I remember.
Can't recall what it was. I want to say like FiOS type wires, whatever it is. Anyway, it involved a lot of money. A lot of the stuff.
I remember now.
Involved
Clicks.
fiber optics, yeah.
Fiber optics on the water towers in several areas in the city. I remember that. And there was a bill that nobody could pay because there was no bid and so forth.
There was no contract or something. The other thing that I recall is when I was working in the hall, there was an issue around the procurement and the execution of some stuff up at the water plant. So this is not pencils and paper and paper clips. This is huge capital investments that if somebody gets it wrong or bids it wrong,
There's legal repercussions.
there's only one person we can, huge legal and services repercussions. I beg the committee to think about having a high standard for the person that should be the DPW director, and I think you do that by saying, you don't gotta be the most expert person in the whole state on it, but you sure have to have the certification so that when you do bid out $2 million in solar panels, which we're about to do, by the way, you know what you're doing, and that you're not making any mistakes on it, and that when things come to, push comes to shove, and they implement the stuff, we're not all mad at that person, because really the only person we can actually put on the carpet is Rita.
Right.
And that's just not fair for us to expect that of Rita. I think we should, we pay these people a lot of money to be department heads, specifically this position. And, it's not our fault that it's an acting position. We've only been sent on one name, and I think that it's, we really should think about that part of it, that we're doing a disservice by passing this, by taking it out, we're saying to to people, hey, we have a high expectation on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Counselor Toomey?
Yes. Mr. Bonet?
Yes.
The procurement officer, it's not necessary, well, first of all, I think it'd be impossible for anybody in that position to know everything that has to be done within each individual department.
Correct.
Even when they get a suggestion or an order from a particular department chief who spells out specifications, she's not supposed to know anything about that. Isn't her job more of a process type thing versus what's actually within the context of what's being procured?
Well, I can only speak for my experience.
Yeah.
When I write the specifications, I get tons of questions from Ms. Brousseau as to what, when, where, why do you need it, where do you go, and not so much about the budget, because that's not her, that's the controller's area. But she makes sure that my specifications of my entire bid, she does the bid process, and she'll post it on a specific professional site for individuals to see, probably communicate with some of the past organizations that we were doing business with to see if they would like to bid on the services. She makes sure that she sends out instructions about bids being submitted, sealed before a certain deadline. She receives those seals. She provides information about who would like to be present when those bids are open.
But it's still
That's a
ba-
process,
basically
but
the process.
before then, she makes sure that the whole entire bid that's going out has everything that we need. And not that she knows a lot about personnel, but she asks specific questions that makes me think, okay, let me go through this one more time and make sure that I have everything that I need in this service.
And she would do that with anybody.
Yes, she would do that with anybody. So she may not know a lot about, she's worked in the city long enough to know and see the same, bids or services come throughout the years and see what changes have developed and probably ask questions.
But still, the material that's presented is still developed by a department chief for a
Correct,
particular
correct.
thing he's looking for. Because
The
we're paying
core
him
of the
to know what he's
specification.
doing.
Correct. The core of the
Correct?
specification is created by the department.
Right.
He or she knows what they want in services and what they're bidding out for.
Right. So, because it'd be impossible for her to know everything that's going on.
Correct.
you know? So you have to depend upon your department chief to put forth a proper type of document.
Correct.
So from my perspective, what would he need to know, or this particular department chief need to know, in reference to what's required for a procurement license, that would help him in writing an order for a particular type of job?
Well, I think that would be a question for the procurement officer right there. There are different laws on how to go about bidding, depending if you need equipment or services, or, there's different, they categorize them differently. I think there's like 5 or 6 that we've learned about a month ago, and they go through a different process. Unless I bring my notes out, because I'm not an expert procurement officer, I think that she would be the expert, subject matter expert on what it is that she finds or needs from the department heads. Yeah. I from experience, I would tell you that I need to know my job in order to bid. I need to know, I work in human resources, so before I bid on something, whether it's employee assistance program, unemployment, administration, workers, compensation, legal administration,
That's your job.
I need to know what it is. So I have to write it up, and I'm the expert on that subject matter, particularly on the technical part, and she's the expert on the procurement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Tomei. Anyone else? Frank, so the director of DPW has been writing up the procurements, and she's been looking it over and finalizing all the details and setting it forth, correct?
Correct.
Now, we're only asking for this position to be certified. We're not asking for any other department head to certify?
None of the other departments are certified with the procurement, no, that I know of, just this one right here.
And this comes down from where? From the state? From,
No, this job description, including about 50 other non-union positions that were filled at the time in 2005, according to the charter, it requires that a consultant be hired by the city, and it went through a bid process, and we selected an individual who was able to do a specific service, which is, according to the to the charter, reclassify the positions for the non-union along with the personnel director, so both of them in conjunction. It was his recommendation based on surveys. We did a few surveys. First of all, we did a compensation survey to see if these individuals, how much they were getting paid around surrounding communities or communities that were within the same budget of the city of Lawrence or the same population of the city of Lawrence. And then we also asked for job descriptions, so we wouldn't reinvent the wheel. So we cut and paste some of the things and then added some others. And what we saw in the survey was that a lot of DPW directors in Somerville, Boston, big cities with the same budget of the population that we had that certification. And so the consultant added it to the job description. Mayor Sullivan agreed, sent it down to the council, and the council approved it.
So since '05, this has been in the job description, but has not been,
No, the previous director didn't have that either.
and he didn't have it either?
No, but I believe that the one before him did. Mr. DiFiore, I think it was.
Okay.
He did.
So do
He's
we
in the attorney
know
currently.
if the acting DPW director go to the little meeting orientation that they had regarding this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, do we think that we need to give some time, maybe, or, because, I mean, he's just interim at the moment, so it wouldn't
Well,
be,
and it's not affecting him, we're debating the,
just for the job
position,
description,
yeah,
so it
we're not
wouldn't be.
debating
Has
him.
nothing to
Okay,
He
all
wa-
right.
yeah.
has nothing to do
So
with
if
him.
we approve this, what I'm trying to say is if we approve this, it won't be something that he's gonna have to immediately go out and get certified and all this. Would it affect his job? This is where I'm coming, I wanna make sure that this isn't gonna affect him in a way that, him being the interim DPW
Well,
director,
let
that
me
it's gonna,
just-
that all of a sudden, he's just gonna have to, go and do this for procurement, certification without no time limit, and then it's gonna become a problem. I wanna make sure that we know what we're doing.
I want to specifically for the people at home to understand that the job description is not coming down to accommodate somebody for a position.
Correct.
The job description came down on a request from Councilor Plant during the interview of the last nominee that came down for the position about these two things that were in the job description he thought should be out. And after further discussion, we all agreed on the license. It was a duplicate error on our part, and some of us agree on the procurement. But whatever the job description is now, the person coming before you should have those requirements. And if you change it, the person coming before you should have those requirements.
Okay.
So however you want to change it, whoever they send down, they have to have the requirements.
How long did you say it takes for the procurement process, certification to go through?
It depends, it's almost like
On when they
teacher,
give
it's
the-
almost like teacher certification. They test during a certain period of time, usually once a quarter. It takes about a week to go to training, I think maybe 2 weeks, I'm not quite sure. And then there's a test at the end of that training, and they'll tell you if you pass or fail at that time. But it just depends, you have to go online and find out when the next trainings are available. So if you give somebody 3 months, but the next training is not available until August, they won't make it. It's a unrealistic expectation.
One last thing, and I'm hoping we can vote on my motion. I just think it already exists. This position already says you have to have it.
Correct.
What's being asked of us is to pull it out.
Correct.
The reason why I think some of us maybe voted against the person who was there was because certifications like this that were not there. So I think that,
There's-
again, I think that there is a legitimate concern. I don't wanna do damage to a person who's been serving the community very well.
Yeah, but I think,
At the same time, I think that when we think about this position, what we'd wanna do is encourage people to get the training. Now, unless you don't think that they should have the training at all, and then you can, I guess, vote. But I just wanna make sure, that's why it doesn't really impact him, because he's acting.
yeah, I don't want to put a person, I just want to say, I just want to make sure you know that Councilor LaPlante's exact word is, why do we have a procurement license for a DPW director position when we already have a procurement officer who does that job? It makes no sense. I'm quoting. So,
No, I understand. But I'm just thinking off the top of my head that I believe that it should be certified, only because that'll help when when the procurement division people revise their laws. Obviously, they're coming back to give orientations because there have things that have been revised or changed, et cetera. And everybody within their department will know how these laws will affect or yay or nay in their department. Now, having somebody like Rita having to decipher between all these departments, if one law changes, how is it gonna affect every single one of these departments in a good way or in a bad way or in that whole sense? And that way, this person having a certification, it will give some type of backing as into, you know, if Rita is gonna not be available, or she couldn't go to the orientation or recertification or whatever it is that they do in that process, that there is somebody that is able to go and be, you know, qualify themselves to be able to have this paperwork in line, so that when Rita gets it, it cuts a lot of the questions asking, having to go back and forth, and, you know, her asking, you know, how many nails do you need for this or that or the other, or like you said, plaster and paint and, you know, and all that good stuff. It's just things that when you know all your you know, all the small print, it won't be skipped over.
Correct.
So I think that certification for this is something valid, it's something that needs to be had. And then I'm gonna have Counselor Toomey, and then I'm gonna call the question on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I lost my thought. What would be, to me, it would make more sense to probably hire a new procurement officer, then you would have two down there. It seems to me that.
Or procurement office, I think.
No, it seems to me that what's requested here is that the DPW director has to be certified to become a procurement officer, which is what Rita Brusso is currently doing, which she does all the time.
Not get certified to become a procurement officer, just get procurement certification.
Well, what does that mean? That means
Well, procurement officer
that means you're qualified to become a procurement officer, isn't it?
You're qualified to do procurement, but
Yeah.
if you look at the procurement officer, that person is the person that does all the procurement in the city. A contract cannot go through, a bid cannot go through unless it has gone through Rita. Whereas if the DPW director or the personnel director gets a certification, all I've done is I've learned the process, I've learned the laws. I still cannot sign a contract, I still cannot open the bid, because it's still a centralized process at the finance department.
I understand that, but still, it's something to, let's face it now, okay? If, you go to college for 4 years to get an engineering degree, and you go out and you work in the business, okay? Not in the business of being an engineer, but in the business world, right? 10 years down the road, even though you've got your degree in engineering, 10 years down the road, you forgot everything you learned when you went to school. It's the same thing here. If it's not constantly used,
Right.
it's useless, as far as I'm concerned.
You're right, you're absolutely correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, I'll just call the question. Can you read the motion, please? Oh.
Essentially, Falls City Council would favor recommendation to strike the wording elimination of procurement language and allow the correction of the driver's license.
Is that correct,
That was it, yeah.
Counselor Rivera? All right, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No?
No, against?
Nope.
So I'll call the roll. Counselor Toomey?
No?
Counselor Rivera?
Yes.
Counselor Moran?
Nope.
And myself, so what happens? We just send it up without a recommendation?
You can make a recommendation to do that, send it up without a recommendation.
Send it up without a recommendation, and then we could, I'm looking for a
I'll move
motion then
that.
to send it
I'll
up
make
without a
that a motion.
recommendation. All those in favor?
Second. I second the motion. Send it without recommendation.
Send it up without a recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I do have to go on a previous meeting. So I
That was gonna be the easy one.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. There's a tabled matter. Are we gonna do the tabled matters?
There's actually a couple of more, I guess, that he wants.
Just a quick, yeah,
Okay. Is it-
quick more, we had, I'd like to see if we can discuss the payroll specialist, document 300212.
That would be 30212?
Correct.
Motion to, I need a motion to
Need a
take.
motion to take down the
Second.
30212 off the table, out of order.
So moved, thank you.
We had brought this job description down, I believe it was on October 17th, the memo has it, probably a little bit later. We asked for it to be tabled, because at the last minute, once it was on the agenda, a business agent called my office to ask me to table the document, or asked for you to table the document because they were unaware that the job was coming down for reclassification. However, I had instructed the business agent that the president of the union and myself, who happens to be Dan McCarthy, sat down and we went through the job description and we had agreed. So there was a communication issue between the president and their union agent. So, I graciously told her that I would ask the personnel committee to table it. So I don't believe there was no changes to it. We met last Friday, and they've agreed to change this title from the payroll supervisor to a payroll specialist. It's still a union position. There's no changes to the grade. We cannot, it's a negotiated item. We can't change, if you change anything on this job description, I have to go back and renegotiate, because it's a working condition change. But based on the items that Mark Iannello, the finance director, and I included into the pay specialist position, we're quite comfortable that this is what we want in turn for not filling in the payroll supervisor position. And a little history about the payroll supervisor, as Mark Iannello had probably commented to you, this is part of his reorganization, if you will. I don't want to say reorganization because that requires a broader department reorganization, but his position reviews on eliminating the payroll supervisor, creating the payroll director, which was created. Actually, we're doing some, just to give you an update on that one, we're doing some reference checking. We have one, we're waiting for two. We believe we have a candidate. They wanted to include with the payroll director 2 payroll specialists, but he only has 1 budgeted for this one. He'll probably advocate the lobby for next year. So his, in a nutshell, his issue was that the payroll department needed to be more professional, needed to be more knowledgeable, needed to be experts at what they do. There were some things that he found that we were not doing in accordance with the law, reporting to IRS and things like that. So this one right here is just basically getting 2 specialists and putting it under the department, well, one, it's a 1 position under the payroll director, so that way they can be responsible for the payroll office. And then the clerks are working in their departments. Those are regular clerks. One is currently in the fire, one is currently in the police department. They do other things beside payroll. And then the one that's from DPW is currently helping in payroll because there's no one in payroll to do the payroll, so.
Okay.
So
Any
there were no major changes from our last discussion. I just don't remember where we left off, but I just thought I'd just brief you very quickly on that one.
Any questions from the committee?
Yes, I do.
Counselor Twomey?
This item was budgeted in the last budget, this current budget.
Correct.
And it's budgeted as what? As a payroll supervisor?
As a supervisor, correct.
Will that, if we go along with what you've got here to change it from supervisor to specialist, will that change that position whatsoever?
Change it in the budget?
Yeah. The terminology used where it says payroll supervisor versus payroll specialist?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've
Because
never,
my question is this, it could turn around and say, if we change this to payroll specialist, and what they've asked for is the payroll supervisor, they might say, well, no, forget it, we can't do it. You see what I mean? Just for that one word.
they who, though? I'm still, maybe,
Okay, supposing you have a candidate,
correct.
okay, who comes in and based on this is a payroll supervisor. Now, we changed it to payroll specialist,
Correct.
okay? It's budgeted as a payroll supervisor. Would they still be able to hire this particular person as a payroll specialist and pay him under that payroll supervisor position?
Yes, correct, because what we do is the posting, the job posting is what delineates what job is being advertised and what we're hiring for. So when a person applies for the position, if they're applying for the one that's posted, which is going to be the payroll specialist, if we get that approved through the council, their application should say payroll specialist. And they should have no expectations that their job should be, what's in the budget. On top of that, an agreement has been in place with the current union, which this position falls in, the SEIU union. And they've agreed to change the title and some of the duties on this in lieu of, the pay department getting up to speed. So there wouldn't be any expectations of anybody applying for a payroll supervisor because we wouldn't post or advertise for a payroll supervisor.
Well, I just didn't want any confusion later on. If a person submits an application for a payroll specialist, and someone will turn around and say, well, there's nothing in the budget to pay for a payroll specialist, but there is something to pay for a payroll supervisor, which you're not.
I don't know if there's, should be any language, or maybe, I mean,
Just a question.
Yeah, I think I would defer to the council president. I don't know if any changes occur throughout the year, do they go back to the budget and change any
Well, the thing is,
technicalities or
You're able to
anything?
look at the changes, because this is a city council vote, so you're able to look at the changes that were made. And automatically, it goes up to the budget and finance director, he does the change and the
It
adjustment.
does the changes?
So he has to do the adjustment, where to get the money from. But he has to have the vote of the council.
The vote of the council for the money to be there, which we do have, but it's under a specific name, payroll supervisor versus payroll specialist. I just didn't want any confusion to happen later on if someone does go for the job and they say, well, we can't do
I
that.
know it's changed on the system, because we do
question
the
to you
changes
is-
on the system, I just don't know if it's.
I know what Councilor Toomey's saying. Are we eliminating the supervisory position?
Well, we haven't asked. Usually when we come down here, we do job reclassification or classification or reclassifications. If it's going to take another position, you can take the vote. We usually recommend that you take a vote to abolish, and that's what the charter calls it, abolish the position which this is taking place for.
Okay, so what we do.
So you'd
I
be
understand what you-
abolishing the
I understand.
supervisor
So
and,
we no longer need the payroll supervisor.
correct,
That's gone. So what we're doing is reclassifying it, renaming pretty much.
correct, right.
the
Because what
job
happened,
description-
it's reclassification, really. It's not a classification, it's a
Is the job
reclass.
function the same, stays? The job function doesn't change at all?
No, there's a few added extras in there, but basically, we just took out the title of supervisor because it wasn't supervising anybody. It wasn't even, it was more like a coordination. They have no subordinates under them. And then we just tidied up the skills, knowledge, and abilities, but basically, the functions are the same.
So the function is the same thing, the only difference is they're not supervising anybody.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Since this person is, since it was budgeted for a supervisor position and this is now a specialist position, there must have been more money in there because of supervisory umbrella here. Now, is that money going to be taken away?
That's a question for the budget. I don't think it will this year. I'm just not the subject matter expert in that one, but I'll tell you what I've run into in the past. When someone leaves, they usually when someone retires, they're usually at the highest salary range and probably sometimes over their salary range based on percentage increase of collective bargaining agreements. This position won't change grades. It still remains in the same salary range. So the new person coming in is going to start at a much lower salary than the individual that just left. And the other one has been here for over 30 years and has been increasing their salary, whereas the other one is coming in the salary range and will be fitted in that salary range. Whatever money is in the budget this year, because it was made with the intention of paying for the supervisor's position, went probably to pay for the accruals that individual had and upon retirement had to be paid. So the new individual coming in will probably just have just barely enough to pay for the salary until the end of the year. Now, for the new year, it'll be the salary that the person, if there is a selection made before the new budget comes out, it'll be the salary of that person earning for the whole entire fiscal year 14.
Okay. So as of this moment, for the classification for supervisor of payroll supervisor, for next year would have to be approved for the budget, and within the budget, and the wording is going to be amended, and it's going to be a clear process. It's not going to be the same amount of money, and
No, right, so if this is approved, next year's budget, you'll see payroll specialists, and you'll probably see it in the salary range. Let's say that we hire someone before the new budget comes out.
Yes.
We'll know exactly what that salary is going to be for 14.
okay.
But if we don't get to hire anyone before the new budget goes on and gets approved, then we're going to have to guesstimate what we believe is going to be a starting salary for someone coming in between the range of step level 1. I believe the collective bargaining agreement for the SEIU says you come in at step level 1, but I'm not quite sure. I would have to go back, because I wasn't expecting to speak on budget today, but if we don't know, we have to guesstimate what that salary budget is going to be for a payroll specialist.
So no one has sat down to classify what levels and how much per level the specialist is going to be earning for the new year?
It's the same as a supervisor, it doesn't change. We can't change that grade unless we negotiate that with the union, and that was not negotiated.
Because supervisor has supervisory, they need to supervise people, therefore their pay will be a little, because they have a lot more on their plate. But now that we have a specialist, which I've heard here that the specialist is just gonna be, there was nobody under this person, that maybe, the monies that was put in there as a supervisory position to supervise these other peoples is no longer in
Right.
play.
I know what you're saying, and it is really very difficult to, or not even difficult, it's just very tricky to understand, because I had a difficult understanding what the SEIU Administrators Union was composed of. And from my understanding, it was an administrators union who had individuals who had supervisory levels, who had subordinates that they supervised. But when you really look at the union, they have individuals there that do not supervise. And that's why they call it the administrators union and not the supervisors union. So if you start to think, or anyone starts to think that a position needs to be a supervisor to be in the SEIU, it's not true. You don't have to be a supervisor to be in the SEIU. But you can't be in any other unions as well. And so this position wasn't a supervisor position to begin with, had no, under the old job description, had no subordinates to supervise. So really, the title was a technical, error from a long time ago. We decided to change that, payroll specialist. It doesn't change the grade, because really there was no supervisory responsibilities pulled away from that position. But let's say that they did have responsibilities and we did pull the supervisory responsibilities, then we would negotiate a new salary.
I just wanted to make sure that we meaning the people who approve the budget and all of us in the process, that put the name supervisor in there, it wasn't done with the purpose of wanting to hype the salary.
No,
And then
no.
I just
I'm
want to
glad
make
you
sure
brought
that
that
it's
up.
clear that everybody at home, only because of all the difficulties and the
Actually, what it would do is
wording
bring
and
it
all the
down.
stuff that's happened in the past, I want to make sure that everybody at home knows that when we classify this, that on our next vote in our budget process, that it's going to go for the specialist. We're going to vote on it being a specialist position, not a supervisory position that might have had some other monies there and is not supervising anybody. I want everybody to be on the same page.
And I can definitely confirm that this salary would not go up. I believe the individual leaving us was up in the 74s, maybe 80s. This will be in the 60s. This definitely would be lower.
We want to make sure that this person also is being qualified as a specialist, that is coming in at the right grade and
Salary
and
range,
has the
correct. I'm
salary
glad you brought that up.
qualifications and et cetera. Moving things forward, we'd like to make sure that
Everybody explains it,
that
right.
things get done, in the correct way. Does anybody else have any further questions for?
Motion to send up with the full favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes. Document number 33912, would you like to discuss a little bit, Mr. Bonet? Would you like to?
Yes,
leave it for-
actually, this one, just make a note.
Actually, you're in order, so.
Who would like to, I'm looking for a motion
Motion.
to take it off the table.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Document 33912, the MIS Director reclassification. Mr. Bonet?
Yes, this position is being sent down. Actually, it was tabled the last time because I think we had some interviews for our attorneys. We had 2 attorneys here, and the day was going to be long, and I think it was tabled for that reason. This position is being asked for an elevation in grade. And the reason for that is because this position falls, this is a director position, MIS.
Excuse me.
MIS,
Point of inquiry.
Counselor Toomey?
I'm looking at the letter that came down from the mayor for this, and it says here it's a reclassification for grade 6, yet what we have in here is for grade 7.
Yeah, did I send I thought I sent a corrected copy down. Somebody, I think
Matter of fact, I
Counselor,
pointed
you
out
were the
to
one
you.
that brought it up, and I sent the corrected copy down, yes.
Do you have a corrected
Yeah.
copy?
I have the copy of November 28th.
Yeah, I sent the corrected copy down.
That's
On
one
the
I have.
memo, it says grade 6, and in parentheses, it says 4. However, the job description at the bottom, at the footnote, it's a grade 7. So the correct grade is a grade 7.
Grade 7?
Yes.
Okay.
So the job description is correct, it's just the memo.
Okay, the memo's wrong.
Memo's
okay.
wrong. The memo
So
should say
it's
grade
grade
7.
7?
7,
I want to make sure when it goes up to the full council, it goes out with the right.
yes.
Grade.
And I'll find the corrected version, because I know you brought it up the last time before it was tabled, that there was an error on one of these, correct. So this job description, Management Information Systems Director position, is currently a grade 4, is at a salary of $50,000 to $65,000. I believe at this moment, the individual is at his highest range in that, based on the experience that they have coming from the Lawrence Public Schools. The proposed salary classification is a grade 7, and this position falls under the budget, or the finance director. Like, for some reason, I want to say the budget and finance for the old title, but it's finance director. He sat down with the MIS director and restructured the job description. And it's not approved, it's just a proposal. So it grew from about 4 pages to about 9 pages. So basically, there were a lot of additional essential functions added, some additional responsibilities such as the total control of the Lawrence Police Department's website, including additional technical responsibilities such as phones and copiers. At one point, the Lawrence Police Department were doing their own IT, their own copiers, they were entering into contract and so forth. The finance director had instructed the MIS director to take that, so there were some negotiations between the police department and MIS because of security issues and emails that are confidential in nature. And they overtook, I think they're overtaking DTD's. He has to overtake the whole entire Department of Training and Development's city side MIS. And it's a little tricky because DTD they currently have a state system, and we can't use their systems, and we can't use their lines, we can't use their fiber optics. We have to throw all that ourselves, so I believe the MIS director has been doing some bid process for there. But basically, the finance director has requested that the position be reclassified, and so his job is to write it up, how he thinks this position should apply under his, and my job is, as soon as I get it, I have to score it. And so based on all the jobs and all the information that he put in there, the score came out to a grade 7 from a grade 4. So for any non-union job description, any changes that you make here, I may have to go back upstairs and rescore it because, as I was explaining before, you get 5 points for being a supervisor. You get 5 points if your employees are in one location. You get 20 points if they're scattered across the city, and so there's different scoring mechanisms. You get 5 points for a high school diploma, and you get 10 points for an associate's, 15 points for bachelor's, and so forth and so forth. So anything that changes requires a change in the salary, in the scoring.
Who currently holds this position?
This position is Rob Harden. He was transferred from the Lawrence Public Schools as a loaner, actually, at one time, because at 2010, I believe, January, February, the whole entire IT department was, or I don't want to call it IT, it's called the MIS on our side, was placed on administrative leave pending some sort of investigation. And then after that, I believe everyone was terminated, and a new MIS department was hired.
So when this goes up and this person will be getting the grade 7 instead of grade 4 pay?
Yes.
And will
It
this-
has to be reposted,
Okay.
because anytime you do a reclassification, it has to be reposted. Or, in other words, if it goes up in grade, the capacity has to be reviewed. So the finance director would have to sit down and take out the personnel file for this individual and find out if he's qualified for this position. And if he is, then he could place him there and continue placing him there, but if he's not, he would have to post it, and it would have to go up for,
Now, has
acceptance.
the person who's there now, has he been briefed on all these other new things being added to, from a 4-page to like a 9-page document where his duties have expanded? And is this person prepared and qualified, or is this person gonna have to go out and get certified in all these new areas, or how is that functioning?
I don't know about the qualifications based on this job description, because my job is not to make a job description to fit a certain person. So I tried to leave that and not try to ask what they have as qualifications, because I don't want it to be skewed. But what I do know is that both the director, finance director, and the MIS director, who falls under the the finance director's organization structure, both sat down and wrote this job description up of new tasks and new functions that he, the IT director, has picked up, and new tasks and new functions that the finance director wishes for him to take over.
So there might be some new tasks that are being asked of this person that this person might have to go out and get certifications for, or learn these new programs, or, now, is this gonna be something that is gonna, I don't know if you know the answers to these questions, but is this something that we're gonna have to send this person out to be certified and pay this person more for the time that this person's gonna have to be certified on top of the person's pay for being here working for the city of Lawrence?
Well, we're asking for a Microsoft certification, MCP, MCSEs.
This is
So,
new?
I believe it is, yes. From the old one, yes, it is.
No, it's not new.
It's not new?
Not new,
It's not-
from-
Okay.
Not according to the education and experience.
Do you have the old one there with you?
Yes.
The
we
only
have
thing,
both.
the only thing I can see in education and experience is the addition
Oh,
of,
I have the old one, I'm sorry.
I have the old one here and a new one. The addition is 3 to 5 years of supervisory of IT staff required, and also Massachusetts driver's license.
They've added
That's all
three,
new.
they've added 3 to 5 years of supervision of IT staff required, and the Massachusetts driver license, correct?
That's the only difference
Right,
between the
on
two.
that one. And if you look at the skills, the knowledge and abilities, I think they've added
Oh, there's added a lot in that area.
about 4 pages.
Yep.
And
Well, wouldn't you expect that those skills and knowledge would fall under what is required of, through their education and experience?
excuse me?
Wouldn't you think that the skills and knowledge and abilities that the, which is added to, which is rather expanded under the grade 7, would be all part of what they would probably learn through their education and experience?
No, because those are the qualifications. The skills are what you're looking for, and the abilities. Let's say, let me take, for example, a simple job requires color vision, being able to read green, blue, or green, red. I'm colorblind, so I failed a lot of the stuff. So you could put the ability to read, to know the colors. If you don't have that ability, it's not an education that you need to have it. What you want is education, and you want experience, sometimes certification, hard copy that you can prove. The skills, the knowledge, and the abilities, those come if you have the experience. So if I work 5 years doing red, green color items, and you ask for the skill, it should be there. The experience should say 3 to 5 years working in a, color environment place setting. And I'm just using that to elaborate on an example. You could put, but not the whole entire thing. I mean, I've never seen them like that. I've seen, just as the federal government does, they put their skills, their knowledges, and the abilities in the same job description, but not as part of the education and experience requirements.
I just wanted to just make sure that on the same wavelength as we did earlier, that when we change this and we add new stuff to it, that we don't continue to hear oh, now they've changed all of this and we have another unqualified person in that position, et cetera, and that's getting paid. It's just a redundancy of the exact same thing that I would like to have cut out if we can in any way, shape, or form. Even though that it may not be that way, but there are many people who would love to put it out that way, and then we have to go cleaning up a mess that really wasn't even a mess to begin with. It was just something that was put out there to make it seem as a so-called scandal, as we've seen in the past. And then until it gets rectified, it's already too late because of the situation that it's already been put out there, and it's been a negative flow back and forth. So I wanted to try and avoid that kind of a situation where we're changing just from supervisor to specialist and these pay rates from grade this to grade that. I wanted to make sure that
And I'm glad you say that, and they also have to also understand for the people at home that the personnel director brings in proposals or recommendations. The director wants these jobs to take. So some of these positions evolved over time by picking up more duties, and it's not reflected in the job description. Someone who might leave, and we get new employees, and if it's not delineated in the job, it's not their responsibilities. Usually, that's what they say, it's not in my job description. So we try to put as much in a job description. I believe that if you want to talk more about the responsibilities and the tasks, the finance director is here, who is the person responsible for helping the personnel department create this job description. It talks to you why he felt the need for this, this position to be reclassified. My job is to put it together for you in a sense that it is scored as fairly and as equally as the scoring mechanism by Bennett Associates of 2005 was presented to the city. That's what we use.
because I know that here, I mean, we might have a couple questions for him, but I do know that there's only 3 of us here, and there are going to be other counselors that are going to have a lot of other questions at the full council for Mr. Iannello. But I just wanted to make sure that at least, I mean, if we wanted to have a little bit of a discussion here, we may. He's here now. But I'm thinking that up in full council, they're going to have tons of questions also when this does get passed up there, for the simple fact that there's going to be people who want to make sure that everything is being followed in the right sense, so that we don't have miscommunications in a certain way of any sort that we might have to straighten out for no apparent reason. But if anybody has questions for Mr. Iannello, he is here, and he's ready and willing to answer any questions if anyone has them.
Madam Chair, I want to make a motion just for discussion, just to send that up to the full council
Sure.
Second.
for discussion.
Discussion?
And just very quick, because I'm looking at the education experience. You're looking for a Master's of Science degree in computer science to be a director. In college, they don't teach you how to repair computers, according to what, I'm looking at the description. You want this guy to know how to install the system, repairs, maintenance the system. They don't teach you that in college. So if you get a master's degree, where is he going to learn? I mean, this is a technician. You put a description for a technician, not a person with a master's degree. This is what I'm looking at your description. You're describing a technician, not a,
On the education
College education,
On
yeah.
the education experience?
yeah.
That, see, as Councilor Toomey had indicated earlier, that education experience was provided to the council in 2005 by Bennett and Associates, who was a consultant who wrote these down. It is up to you if you'd like to change it to make that motion. You can change those things. It's not, I mean, it's set in stone right now with the old job description. And I left it like that, included only the IT staff supervision and the Massachusetts driver's license, because we're trying to get all our positions to say driver's license.
No, I'm looking at the requirement, Masters of Science degree in computer science, a related field, 3 to 5 years experience in computer system installation, repair and maintenance, or an equivalent combination of education experience.
And I believe at one time it was just that, technicians, you know.
I mean, this is pretty much a technician position.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a
It doesn't look
technician.
at it, I'm looking at everything else, well, looking of,
Mr.
this is a
Iannello?
director.
Correct.
This is not a technician. This is a director, a person that's going to supervise, manage, not supervise, manage.
Manage, right.
You're a director, you have managers to work under you. Then you have supervisors. You have 3 layers of management
In this case, he'll be
under you,
doing,
under a director.
right, in this case, he'll be doing all 3, because it's only director, staff. He has a
Really?
staff of 2.
Oh.
Correct. So he's hands-on also. And
Okay.
it's probably why it's requiring
That's why it's all
technician,
technical.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, if I can just interject, one of the primary reasons I need,
Mr. Iannello, name and address for the record, please.
sorry,
Thank you.
Mark Iannello, Finance Director, City of Lawrence.
Thank you.
The main reason why I'm trying to get this position upgraded is we have a person in a position who has the skills and ability to not just be the director of the IT stuff. I need him to also be the one who can manage all the software programs, and, you know, I was just at the council last week looking for some software improvements. This position is going to be an integral part of the successful implementation of all those software enhancements. And before I got here, the IT director is really just kind of doing the IT stuff or the computer stuff. And I really need him to be more involved in the software and managing the security, you know, getting full use of our software. So I'm asking him to do a lot more than he was asked before.
So programming and databasing, more or less.
And managing, to making sure all the departments, when the departments have a need, to analyze the need and see if we can provide a software solution.
So, Councilor Moran?
Who does the procurement for him?
He kind of does his own, along with Rita Brusso, our purchasing agent. He works very closely with her. Most of the products that, aiding in our ERP system is Munis, so we procured that prior to the Y2K issue, so we've just been renewing,
Is he certified?
certified in what?
Procurement, as a procurement?
No, that would be no, I'm sure he hasn't gone through the procurement course, but we did have a recent course for all department heads and people involved in purchasing, where the OIG came out and gave us all instructions as to how to procure. But we're not, we didn't pass the certification test. That's just, there's about 5 or 6 people that have that on the city side, and a bunch at the school.
I mean, that's a big issue. We really need to have somebody there.
Well, that's what, you know, that's what we have the purchasing agent there for, to work with the department heads. We don't ask department heads to be certified. We want, like, a few of them, like there's someone in DPW that is certified. There's some of the larger procurement departments, like the school, they have a few. I think somebody in water sewer might have been, gone through some certification. So there's quite a few people, but the chief procurement officer is Rita Brusso.
All right, I just want to make sure, because you know there's a mess going on in that department right now. $9 million somewhere, floating around somewhere that we still haven't figured out.
I think that
where
was
ended up.
some of the things
We
that
wanna
I've
make
heard
sure
about.
that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and it won't. I mean, that was more of an accounting issue. Again, procurement's one thing, but accounting for all that stuff is another. And we really need to, my understanding is there were some authorizations, and they might have spent some things outside the authorization. That's an accounting issue, has nothing to do with procurement.
Well,
They
from
might
what
have
I hear,
procured it, they
well,
might have
this-
procured it legally, but,
Well,
yeah.
what I'm talking about has to do with procurement. There
Yeah.
was a contract that was given to another, or a company outside, or who knows where, who owns it. I guess it's under investigation right now. It was a contract that was given away to another. It never went through city council.
yeah.
It never got an approval for who knows who.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would go to city
We don't want
council
that
if
to
it's more
hap-
than 3
the thing
years
is,
and so forth, yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
I can assure you, we've got a purchasing agent who's got the thumb down on everybody. She is really, she's just really super, and I've been really, very fortunate since I've got here to have her on board, because that's one thing I don't have to worry about, because that is a big issue in any municipality, trying to comply with the municipal finance laws regarding procurement. It's very difficult. So she's really well-versed and is keeping the city out of any trouble. I'm certain of it. Plus, we have another munis enhancement that helps too, a contract module to control that.
Councilor Moran? Councilor Toomey?
Mr. Ionel, the new application, what's really needed now for an MIS director, you've really expanded an awful lot of it, right? Well, just hear me out.
Yeah.
Is the current MIS director qualified for these? In your opinion?
Yes, he's really well-versed and has a lot of skill sets that I think have gone underutilized. And I've asked him to kind of step up, and he has. And, you know, but really his job description just kind of says he's a technician. And that's not what I'm asking him to do. I'm asking him to really get involved in.
Well, what my concern was, if he wasn't, then we'd have to go out for bid on it, right? Put forth a request for proposal? Pardon me? A job posting? So would he have to go through that whole process?
I'll defer to Frank. He's qualified in my view. I don't know what the, if the city requires it to be posted and applicants to apply.
I just.
We'll
if
follow
he-
whatever those city
if-
procedures are.
If
but
if he's qualified, as you say he is, I just would not want to lose him. And
That's what I'm trying to do. I don't want
Know
to
what I'm
lose
saying?
him. And I'm trying to make sure we keep him, because he's been quite valuable to me.
fine, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Counselor Toomey. I think it's a great idea that you've explored what this person can do at a greater level, and you're using him because of the situation we had in in inspectional services with that whole situation that we had. So now him being able to be accurate with different softwares and stuff like that, and being able to bring them into the city so that we can revise, renew, and re-implement some of the softwares and get our systems updated and upgraded.
Right.
Which is basically the job of the new things that are being asked of him, instead of just saying, you know, go set these computers up or whatever, or go check what's wrong with this computer. How is it that, you know, what software and this and that, and he's able to bring more to the table now instead of just a technician title or hat to wear. Now he's able to be more hands-on.
That's correct. And as a perfect example, prior to when I got here, all the ERP workflow and permissions, all the users' permissions were handled by somebody inside. It actually was our purchasing agent, which was kind of our de facto administrator of the Munis system. And I've asked Rob to take over that role and responsibility to free her up so she could concentrate on procurement. And plus, that's where I think it should be for control purposes. And he's done well with that.
I think it's,
so I'm really looking forward to
a
it.
great idea that we're expanding what the knowledges are, just in case this person was to leave our city, which we don't want him to or whatever, but the expectations of the person that we would hire in that position, what they would be and what it is that we need as we update our city and as we update our systems, what the qualifications are, because this changes every day. Every day something new comes out. Computer systems 10 years ago are not what they were today. They're not anything at all what they were last year. As to, you know, every year, new computers come out, new phones come out. It's all because everything is being updated and upgraded. So I think we should be moving in that with that process, we should be moving along also. So I greatly appreciate that we're doing this, and I hope that we look into other departments and see if, you know, not to say that we're going to tell people, oh, you need to get certified in all these different things, but as the world moves forward, we also need to educate ourselves and move forward if we want to continue to help our city move forward, one, and be able to be the very best that we could be at our positions, number two. So I'm looking for,
Just one
Counselor
other
Toomey?
question. If this goes through this evening, let's suppose it goes through the full council with a positive recommendation, the salary is quite updated, and I mean, it's higher than what he's currently making. I would assume that there would be some sort of a pay raise involved, and is the money available to do that if necessary?
It might be a transfer required within the MIS budget, but, you know, I don't anticipate that we would need an additional appropriation.
Okay.
But I'll defer to Frank about, you know, how to handle where he is now and where he goes, to make sure we follow city
Well,
policy.
I was just concerned that if there is a requirement for additional salary, that the money's there to do it with. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and there should be, because he has, we may require a council transfer within his accounts if necessary, but not outside the IT budget.
Okay, fine, thank you.
now, final question that I have for you, will this be for if this does get passed before our budget our new budget comes in, will he be getting the portions of that money for that time, or will this be budgeted into our new budget?
Any increase in pay would be factored into next year's budget.
Okay,
But
so
for
it will-
this year's budget, he's not projecting to spend all of his money, so I think we'll be able to manage it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna have to borrow money from elsewhere if this gets
Right.
passed before our new budget, that we would have to accommodate his salary.
That's right. No, I don't plan on doing that. We'll be able to find it within the existing resources.
Motion to send this up with a positive recommendation.
I think there's already a motion, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there anything else that would like to be taken off the table?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair?
Motion to adjourn's been,
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.